Yeah, but I think it is fair to say that the BLM has been very effective at looking at the problems and that it's a different playing field and it's a different set of rules than it was 50 years ago. I mean, I don't think anybody would question that.
No.
So.
Yeah. And as Carl pointed out, it's a different mining technique that's used in this area as opposed to what happened on the
But our problem is we're still getting the phone calls.
Right.
See what I
Yep.
mean? I built my house out of hot rock, and now, you know, all my relatives are dying, and that's kind of what we're dealing with.
Carl, not seriously, but somewhat tongue-in-cheek, take uranium on the south end and just lock it up.
Well, you know, that's what we asked. Originally, we said there are 3 areas being considered. Can we consider them individually? And the answer was no.
Yeah.
That the policy had to involve the entire area. We've always said all along that if we could separate the South Rim, no problem.
Do you think there's another agenda driving that, Carl? Which is preservation oriented as opposed to practicality?
I have no idea. But it was very disappointing to us that we couldn't look at the 3 areas, because I question, for example, the economic viability of uranium mining in House Rock Valley. You know, and so I would have said, not House Rock Valley, not south of the Grand Canyon.
So Carl, what do you mean by we couldn't look at the 3 areas?
Now, this is from Bill Towler, you know, who represented us as a cooperator. He said early in the process, he asked the question, could the 3 areas, was it possible to have a scenario where one or more of the areas was separated as a policy issue?
You mean one area could be withdrawn, but the other? Well, that could be done, depending on what the Secretary's final decision is. He has the range of options from all the way from no withdrawal.
In the EIS is the problem.
Well, because the EIS is, you know, considers what we have per the National Environmental Policy Act. We have to have a range of reasonable alternatives. So in this case, we felt 4. You know, those 4 alternatives were a range of reasonable alternatives. But that doesn't mean the Secretary in his final decision can't mix and match, you know, or combine those alternatives in different ways in the final decision.
Well, that would really go, I mean, if in fact there was a strategy that said mine in Mojave County, or maybe even on both sides of Kanab Creek, not a problem. Leave House Rock Valley alone. Leave South Rim of the Grand Canyon alone. You know, that for us would solve most of the issues that we've had. But our understanding was that was not, you know, in other words, we had to work with the scenarios that were laid out in the EIS.
That was Kane County's understanding too, and Mojave County's too. You know.
So let me ask one question. Scott, what happens at the end of the 6 months?
Well, at the end of the 6 months, the 6-month emergency withdrawal will expire. But the schedule we're on now, we're trying to get the final EIS out, and then there's a 30-day waiting period before the record of decision. So we're trying to get the final EIS out mid-October, and so that the Secretary can make his final decision in mid-November.
Is there, as this dialogue has gone on at this table today, is there still an opportunity for this communication that about what is acceptable to Coconino County and can that compromise language get anywhere where it's going to make any difference?
I think Coconino County already in your comment letter on the draft suggested a scenario that the Secretary can consider in his final decision, and we just went back and briefed our headquarters, you know, and the department after the comment period closed on the draft EIS, and we got the 294,000 comments, and we went back and briefed, here's what we heard from the public, here's the major comments from the consulting tribes, from the cooperating agencies, and one of the things we did point out in the briefing was, you know, what Coconino County suggested.
Is there a way to get like a yellow highlighter when Secretary Salazar gets that copy and just kind of highlight that?
You know, all those things, I think we're going to go back and do one final briefing on the final EIS, and I think that you know, when the Secretary, when he has everything before him to make the final decision, all those are certainly options.
Jim, you had, I know you want to say something.
The National Association of Counties just held their annual meeting in Portland, and that was my first meeting. It was a good chance to go and see how they grind up their sausage as well. You've got eastern and western issues, public land issues, and the rest. This withdrawal came up in the form of a resolution opposing it, and Coconino County was successful in having their county carved out of that resolution regarding the withdrawal. And that might be a starting point, because at a national policy level, that could be worked in that sense. So,
You know, well, excuse me. Yeah, you know, we were talking about the national energy policy and the greenhouse. All those things are, we can't really address them in the EIS process, but they're probably all going to be factors in the Secretary's final decision. How withdrawal of this area would affect the national energy policy, all those things. So.
I'll give you an example of just to beat a dead horse here. If you mine uranium on the South Rim, the maps that we were shown showed the 40-ton uranium trucks heading down Route 66 to Williams, then on I-40 over to Flagstaff, then up 89, through Tuba City, on to Kayenta, all the way to Blanding. Now, Highway 64 for us, first of all, is a dangerous road. We have a lot of accidents on 64. But when I raised the issue to the uranium company, what will happen? Because it was 5 or 6 or 10,000 trips of trucks. I said, what will happen when one of those trucks is in a collision with somebody? They said, well, we'll have to bring in a remediation crew from Blanding, and our policy is to remove 2 tons of soil for every ton of uranium ore. And I said, how long that would take? And they said, well, somewhere up to a week. Now, in a week, if you just took the value of Grand Canyon tourism to us and extrapolated on a daily basis, that's $8 million for us. And it's tourists, lined up to Las Vegas. That was a totally unsatisfying, unsatisfactory answer. We can't wait for a remediation team to come from Blanding, Utah, to deal with an overturned uranium truck on the way that 90% of the people get to the Grand Canyon. So, and it's that kind of thing, that has had us stirred. But if we could get to a point, where we said, look, these are 2 different conditions. We have no, for example, former mining experience south of the canyon, but there's a lot of it up here. And so, I got exactly one letter that didn't come from Fredonia that said they were in favor of uranium mining. One letter. So it's a huge, this is a huge difference of opinion, but it could be resolved by simply saying this would work here, wouldn't work there. Let's do that.
Just as a thought, there's been more than one occasion where somebody has quipped that perhaps the boundary for Arizona should be moved to the edge of the Grand Canyon.
I've said that a lot of times.
There was quite a concerted effort about that, in the 1890s?
How would Coconino County feel about that one?
Well, I have some areas in my district that are pretty wild and woolly. I won't say where they are.
That's probably wise on your part, Carl. All right, well, listen, thank you all for participating. Thanks to all of you who've tuned in to this extended version. We went a little further and a little bit longer than we thought we were going to, but the information is good. If you found that this has been informative, please tell your friends. Please forward the link for this website to your congressman or to anybody that you feel needs to address some of these problems and issues. And you can always podcast it, because the county seat episodes are now available on a downloadable podcast for your mobile phones, smartphones, or iPods. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, gentlemen, for being there.
Thank you.
We'll see you later on the county seat. Thank you.